Let's get right into it. Number 8. The Lazarus Twitch. You know how in horror movies the dead body suddenly twitches and everyone screams, drops their flashlight, and makes terrible survival decisions? Well, turns out that's not entirely Hollywood fiction. When you're almost dead, or even technically dead for a few minutes, your body can do something called post-mortem muscle spasms. That's right, your corpse might decide to dance a little. Medical professionals even have a name for it: Lazarus Reflex. It's when the brainstem is barely hanging on, and the nervous system, which hasn't fully gotten the memo that you're out of service, fires off a random signal. The result? Limbs jerk, toes curl, sometimes even full-on arm movements. One nurse described watching a brain-dead patient sit up like Dracula doing crunches. That is someone's literal worst nightmare, and somebody else's Tuesday at work. So how is this even possible? Your spinal cord can send out commands to muscles without bothering to ask your brain first. It's like that one coworker who just does things without approval, and after death, for a short time, it's still juiced up enough to fire off some creepy last hurrahs. So if you're ever in a room with a body that twitches, it's not haunted. It's just biology being deeply unsettling. Basically, your nervous system's exit interview involves flailing limbs and traumatizing the living. Classic. Number 7. The Death Rattle. Okay, picture this. You're sitting by a bedside. Things are quiet, peaceful, maybe even a little too still, and then suddenly, the person lets out this gurgling, croaking sound like a horror movie swamp creature trying to clear its throat. Congratulations, you've just met the death rattle. Despite sounding like something you'd hear echoing through a haunted forest, the death rattle is actually a totally normal part of dying. It's the result of saliva and other fluids pooling in the back of the throat because, plot twist, the body has stopped swallowing. Air passes through that goo like wind through a clogged pipe. And the result is, yeah, that sound. It doesn't mean the person is in pain. By the way, they're usually unconscious and unaware. The noise is just your body doing one last impression of a malfunctioning espresso machine. Why does it happen? Well, near the end of life, your brain starts clocking out, and all the stuff it usually micromanages, like swallowing and clearing your throat, gets left on autopilot, which, it turns out, is not very good at its job. So fluids build up, breathing gets irregular, and your lungs are just pushing air past whatever gunk's lying around. Fun fact, in ancient times, people thought this sound meant the soul was struggling to leave the body. Today we just know it's your airway auditioning for a horror podcast. Hospice workers are so used to it, they don't even flinch. But if you hear it for the first time, it's like, oh cool, is this the part where the lights flicker and a demon shows up? Yet. Nope, just your body's plumbing system saying its final, unsettling goodbye. Number 6. Terminal lucidity. Alright, this one feels like the universe playing one last emotional prank. Imagine someone has late-stage dementia. They haven't recognized anyone in months, can't talk, can't move. Then suddenly, bam, they sit up, look you straight in the eye, say your name, and maybe even drop some profound last words like they're auditioning for an Oscar. And just as quickly as it came, it's gone. They pass away hours later. This bizarre little miracle has a name, terminal lucidity, and it's real. For reasons that still baffle science, some people experience a strange moment of total mental clarity just before death. We're talking people with severe Alzheimer's suddenly recalling memories, holding conversations, or even cracking jokes. It's like their brain boots up one last time for a farewell tour. And no, scientists don't really know why. There's no satisfying MRI scan that shows what lights up during this brief comeback. Theories range from sudden chemical shifts in the brain, to a drop in inflammation, to, spiritual explanations involving stairways to heaven. Regardless of what you believe, it's weirdly beautiful and super creepy at the same time, especially because it often gives families a false sense of hope. Oh my god, they're getting better, when in reality, it's just the brain's bizarre way of signing off with a mic drop. Terminal lucidity is kind of like your old, barely working laptop suddenly running perfectly for 5 minutes before permanently dying in a puff of smoke. You're not sure whether to be amazed or deeply unsettled. Number 5. The Lazarus Effect. So, imagine this. You die. Flatline. No pulse. The medical team calls it. They stop CPR. People start crying. Someone's probably whispering prayers over your lifeless body. Then, gasp, you suddenly breathe again like it was just a nap gone too far. Congratulations. You just pulled a Lazarus. Yes, this actually happens. It's called the Lazarus Effect, or more formally, auto-resuscitation after failed cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is basically medical jargon for, oops, not dead after all. It sounds like a horror movie setup, but it's a real, documented thing. Sometimes, minutes after all resuscitation efforts stop and everyone assumes you're gone for good, your body just starts back up again on its own, like a car that refused to start until the mechanic walked away. The working theory? CPR builds up pressure in the chest, which can temporarily block blood flow. When the compressions stop, that pressure finally drops and sometimes, the heart goes, oh, now I can do my job, and kicks back into rhythm. It's horrifyingly rare, but not impossible. So rare, in fact, that it's made some hospitals adjust how long they wait before officially declaring death, because nobody wants to be the person who woke up in the morgue and had to file a complaint. And if you're wondering, yes, a few people who've Lazarused have woken up with actual memories or awareness of their surroundings while they were supposedly dead, which makes the whole thing 10 times more unsettling. So if you thought your biggest post-death worry was being forgotten, guess again. Your body might have its own secret encore planned, one you didn't even RSVP for. Basically, your nervous system is out here doing surprise plot twists long after the credits were supposed to roll. Number 4. Death gasp drama. Here's something absolutely not comforting. Just because someone stops breathing doesn't mean they're done making noises. Enter the agonal gasp, aka the Death Rattle's slightly more dramatic cousin. These are the weird, guttural, gasping breaths that can happen right after clinical death. And yes, they sound exactly as creepy as that description, like a haunted vacuum cleaner having an emotional breakdown. Agonal gasps aren't signs of life returning. They're more like your brainstem going, "I refuse to go quietly," and squeezing out a few last spasms of air through your throat, just for dramatic flair. These gasps can last up to a couple of minutes after the heart stops. They're irregular, they're loud, and they're not helpful in terms of oxygenation, but they are enough to give someone nearby a heart attack of their own. It's basically your body playing one last horror sound effect before logging off. From a sciencey point of view, this is your brainstem, the ancient, lizard brain part, firing off primitive reflexes as it loses oxygen. Still, imagine being a paramedic, calling time of death, and then the corpse suddenly gasps like a zombie waking up for brunch. So yes, your brainstem might just decide to do its best creepy doll imitation while you're medically dead. Because even in your final moments, your body can't resist making things just a little more disturbing. Number 3. The Lazarus Reflex. Okay, now imagine this. You're in a hospital room. Someone has just been declared brain dead. It's quiet, the machines are off, and suddenly, their arms slowly lift up and cross over their chest like Dracula tucking himself in for a nap. Totally normal, right? Nope. Welcome to the Lazarus Reflex, named after the biblical Lazarus who, came back from the dead. This eerie little phenomenon happens in brain-dead patients whose spinal cord still has some residual activity left in it. No brain, no consciousness, but apparently, just enough leftover electricity in the spine to do one last, horrifying mime routine. Technically speaking, it's a post-mortem spinal reflex. It's not just arms crossing either. The Lazarus Reflex can include twitching, jerking, or a full-on shrug. Yes, even after death, your body might still have one last meh to give. Now, here's the kicker. It looks very coordinated. That's what makes it so disturbing. People have mistaken it for resurrection. Like, actual zombie resurrection. But it's not life. It's just a glitchy leftover twitch in the meat suit. Think of it like your body's version of when your phone dies, but the screen flashes for a second before it finally gives up. And don't worry, this doesn't mean the dead are rising. It means your spinal cord is like, wait, I had one more thing to do, and then flops your arms around like a puppeteer with a sense of dark humor. So yes, the Lazarus Reflex, the final nope moment, brought to you by biology's inability to read the room.